I am 82 years old, and I need to tell you something I have never told anyone, not my children, not my closest friends, not even myself really, until recently. I stayed silent for 40 years about something that destroyed me, slowly, quietly, from the inside out. And the reason I'm telling you now is because I see so many of you making the same mistake I made, staying silent, thinking silence is strength, thinking silence is protection. It is not. Silence is poison, and I am living proof. If you are watching this and there is something you have never said out loud, something you are carrying alone, something you think will destroy you if you speak it, please stay with me, because what I am about to share might save your life, or at the very least, save you from wasting 40 years the way I did. Subscribe to the last window right now if you want more truth like this. The kind nobody else is brave enough to say. Now let me take you back, not to the secret itself, not yet. First I need to tell you who I was before the silence began, because you cannot understand what silence does to a person unless you understand who that person was before they went quiet. My name is Eleanor. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania in the 1940s and 50s. I was the youngest of 4 daughters. My father worked at the steel mill. My mother kept the house and raised us and never once complained about anything. Not out loud anyway. I learned from watching her. Women in my world did not complain. Women in my world smiled, cooked, cleaned, kept the peace, and carried everything else in silence. That was the model. That was what good women did. I met my husband Robert when I was 19 years old. He was 24, charming, confident. Everyone liked him. My parents loved him. My sisters were jealous. He had a good job, a nice car, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. We got married 6 months later. It was 1962. I wore a white dress my mother made by hand. Robert wore a dark suit and smiled for every photograph, and I stood next to him thinking my life was beginning. I was right about that, but not in the way I thought. The first time Robert hit me, I was 22 years old. We had been married 3 years. I do not even remember what the argument was about. Something small, dinner being late or a shirt not ironed properly or something equally meaningless. But I said something back to him, defended myself, and he slapped me across the face, hard, so hard my ear rang for 2 days. And then he cried. He apologized. He said he did not know what came over him, that it would never happen again, that he loved me more than anything, that I was his whole world. And I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because the alternative that I had married someone capable of hitting me was too terrible to accept. So I buried it. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a mistake, an aberration, and I said nothing to anyone, not my mother, not my sisters, not my friends. I stayed silent. That was the first silence. And it set the pattern for the next 40 years. It happened again 6 months later, and then 3 months after that. And then it was not just hitting, it was other things. Controlling where I went, who I spoke to, what I wore, how I spent money, even though I had none of my own. He would explode over the smallest things, and I learned to walk on eggshells in my own home, monitoring his moods, trying to predict what would set him off, trying to keep everything calm and smooth and perfect so he would not get angry. And I never told anyone, not once, because by then we had children, 3 daughters, and I convinced myself I was staying for them, that leaving would hurt them more than staying, that a broken home was worse than the home we had. I was wrong, but I did not know that yet. I became very good at hiding. Makeup covered bruises, long sleeves covered marks, smiles covered fear. I performed normal so convincingly that even I started to believe it sometimes. Robert was charming in public. Everyone loved him. He coached Little League. He volunteered at church. He was the kind of man people described as a pillar of the community, and I was the quiet wife who stood beside him and smiled and said nothing. Because who would believe me if I told them? Who would believe that the man who organized charity fundraisers was the same man who shoved me into walls when no one was looking? So I stayed silent, year after year after year. The silence became a thing I carried, a weight that grew heavier but never lighter. It sat in my chest. It lived in my throat. It moved into my body in ways I did not understand at the time. I developed migraines that lasted for days, stomach problems the doctors could not explain, insomnia that no pill could fix. I was sick all the time with things that had no name. My body was trying to speak what my mouth would not say. But I still stayed silent. My daughters grew up in that house, and I told myself they did not know. I told myself I was protecting them by keeping everything calm on the surface. But children know, they always know. They might not have words for it, but they feel it. The tension, the fear, the wrongness of a house where everyone is performing normal instead of being normal. My oldest daughter, Karen, stopped talking to me when she turned 30. Just stopped. No big fight. No dramatic falling out. She just slowly pulled away until we barely spoke. And when I asked her why, years later, she said something I will never forget. She said, "Mom, I grew up in a house where I knew something was wrong, but nobody ever said it out loud. And that silence taught me that my feelings did not matter. That truth did not matter. That keeping up appearances mattered more than anything real. And I have spent my entire adult life in therapy trying to undo what I learned in that house. I cannot be around you without feeling like I am suffocating. That was the moment I understood. My silence did not protect my children. It poisoned them. And I had been so focused on keeping Robert calm that I never saw what I was doing to them. Karen was 43 years old when she said that to me. I was 71, 43 years old and still carrying damage from a childhood I thought I had shielded her from. That conversation broke something open in me, something that had been locked for so long I forgot it was there. Robert died when I was 75, heart attack, sudden. He was 79. And when I got the call from the hospital, when they told me he was gone, do you know what I felt? Relief. Pure, immediate, overwhelming relief. Not grief, not sadness, relief. And that relief was so powerful and so terrible that I could not admit it to anyone, not even myself. At his funeral, people came up to me and said what a wonderful man he was, what a loss, how lucky I was to have had so many years with him. And I stood there and nodded and smiled and said thank you. Because that is what you do. That is what I had been doing for 53 years, smiling and saying nothing. But after the funeral, after everyone went home, after the casseroles stopped coming and the phone calls stopped and the condolence cards stopped, I sat alone in the house, our house, the house where I had lived for 50 years, and I felt nothing, no grief, no loss, just emptiness and relief. And I realized something that terrified me. I was 75 years old, and I had spent 53 years married to a man I was relieved to be free of. 53 years, more than half my life, gone, and I would never get them back. That was when I knew I had to speak, not for me. It was too late for me, but for my daughters, for my granddaughters, for every woman who was making the same mistake I made. I called Karen. It was the hardest phone call I have ever made. I said, Karen, I need to tell you something. And then I told her everything. Every single thing I had kept silent about for 53 years. The hitting, the control, the fear, the years of walking on eggshells, the migraines and the stomach problems, and the insomnia that came from carrying a secret too heavy for one body to hold. All of it. I told her all of it. And she cried, and I cried, and when it was over, when I had finally said out loud what I had been carrying in silence for half a century, something happened. I felt lighter, not healed, not fixed, not suddenly okay, but lighter. Like I'd been holding my breath for 53 years and I finally exhaled. Karen said something to me after that conversation that I think about every single day. She said, Mom, I always knew something was wrong. I could feel it my entire childhood. and your silence made me think I was crazy, like I was imagining things, like the fear I felt in that house was my fault somehow. Hearing you finally say it out loud does not erase the damage, but it helps. It helps me know I was not crazy. It helps me know my feelings were real. It helps me know that you see it now. That was when I understood the full cost of my silence. It was not just me it destroyed. It was everyone around me. My daughters grew up thinking their feelings did not matter. My granddaughters grew up watching their mothers carry damage they did not understand. Silence does not stay contained. It spreads like poison in water. It touches everything. After I told Karen, I told my other two daughters, and then I told my sisters, and then because I realized I had nothing left to lose, I started telling the truth to anyone who would listen, not for sympathy, not for validation, but because I realized that every time I stayed silent, I gave permission to another woman to stay silent too, and I could not live with that, not anymore. I started going to therapy at 76 years old. I thought I was too old. I thought there was no point. What could therapy do for damage that was 50 years old? But I went anyway, and it helped, not in the way I expected. It did not erase the past. It did not give me back the 53 years I lost, but it helped me understand that I was not responsible for what Robert did to me, that the shame I had been carrying was never mine to carry, that silence was not strength, it was survival, and survival was all I could manage at the time. But I did not have to survive anymore. I could live. For the first time in my life, I could actually live. I am 82 years old now. Robert has been dead for 7 years. I have spent the last 7 years learning how to be a person instead of a performance, learning how to speak instead of stay silent, learning how to let people see me, really see me, not the version I curated for 50 years, the real me, the one who was scared and angry and broken and still here, still standing, still trying. And here is what I want you to know. If you are staying silent about something right now, please hear me. Your silence is not protecting anyone, not you, not the people you love. Silence does not make hard things go away. It makes them grow. It makes them metastasize into every corner of your life until you do not even recognize yourself anymore. I know you are scared. I know you think speaking will destroy you. I know you think staying silent is the only option. But I stayed silent for 53 years, and it destroyed me anyway. The only difference is I destroyed myself slowly, quietly, with no one to blame but me. If you are in an abusive relationship, speak. Tell someone, anyone, a friend, a family member, a hotline, a stranger on the internet. Just speak, because the alternative is spending 50 years of your life afraid in your own home, and you do not get those years back. If you are carrying a secret that is eating you alive, speak, not to everyone, not all at once, but to someone, because secrets have power only as long as they stay secret. The moment you say them out loud, the moment you let light touch them, they lose their grip on you. If you are silent because you think no one will believe you, speak anyway. Some people will not believe you. Some people will blame you. Some people will tell you that you are exaggerating or lying or looking for attention. Let them. Their disbelief does not make your truth less true. And the people who matter, the people who actually love you, they will believe you. They will hold you. They will help you. I know this because it happened to me. At 75 years old, after 53 years of silence, and it is never too late. Do you hear me? It is never too late to speak, never too late to tell the truth, never too late to stop carrying shame that was never yours. I am 82 years old. I have been free for 7 years. 7 years out of 82. That is all I have. But those 7 years have been more real, more honest, more alive than the 53 that came before. And I would rather have 7 years of truth than 53 years of silence. I would rather be 82 and finally known than 92 and still hiding. I would rather die having spoken than die having stayed silent. So speak today, right now. Before you are 82, looking back at a lifetime of silence, wishing you had been brave at 25, at 35, at 45. Be brave today. Speak today. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. You matter. And the people who love you are waiting to hear it. They might not know they are waiting, but they are. And when you finally speak, when you finally let them see you, really see you, it will change everything. Not erase the past, but change the future. And that is all any of us can do. Change what comes next. I cannot give you back the years you have lost to silence, but I can tell you that the years you have left do not have to be silent too. You can speak, you can heal, you can live, really live, not survive, not perform, live. And that life, that honest, messy, imperfect, real life, is waiting for you on the other side of your silence. All you have to do is speak, just once, and then again, and then again, until speaking becomes easier than staying silent, until truth becomes easier than hiding, until you become more yourself than you have ever been. I am 82 years old. I stayed silent for 53 years, and it almost killed me. But speaking saved me, and it can save you too. Subscribe to The Last Window if this reached something in you. Leave a comment. Tell me your truth, or just tell me you heard this and it mattered. Because I need you to know that your silence is not protecting you. It is destroying you, and you deserve better. You deserve to be known. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to live out loud. So please speak today before it is too late, because later never comes. And the only moment you have is this one. Use it. Speak now.